You're awake right now, you're not dead, and you haven't gone to hell, unquote, said Rachel Maddow, former host on CNN following the 2016 election. Ladies and gentlemen, people are angry about politics. Donald Trump had similar words following the 2020 election. Quote, "You're not going to have a country anymore," unquote. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel wept on stage after the 2024 election. Quote, "It was a terrible night for women and children, poor people, for the middle class, for democracy and decency," unquote. Here, Rachel Maddow, Donald Trump, and Jimmy Kimmel made sensational claims. But they didn't make these to resolve a problem. Instead, they wanted drama, and they achieved it by displaying shock and anger to the cameras. This is called false outrage. Even though false outrage is designed for the cameras, it influences others. Actually, it doesn't influence others, it infects them. False outrage is a disease. To cure this disease, we must decide that momentary anger is not the solution to complex problems. So today, we'll start by diagnosing this disease in our culture, move on to its symptoms, and conclude with the cure. If our culture could walk into a doctor's office, it would come away with a severe diagnosis of false outrage. So, what's the difference between true and false outrage? True outrage wants what is right. False outrage wants to be seen. Not all outrage is bad. True outrage seeks justice. False outrage performs emotions. In George Orwell's dystopian novel, 1984, the communist regime mandates a daily practice known as the 2 minutes of hate. Every day, all the citizens of the communist empire gathered together in front of their TVs. They scream in pure outrage at the images of their capitalist enemies on the screen. When the 2 minutes end, they feel they have accomplished something. This is false outrage in its purest form. And false outrage is all over the internet today. The online world has as much self-control as a nuclear explosion. A study in Science magazine by Killian McLaughlin and her colleagues found that, quote, "social media posts that express outrage are liked and shared more, training users to express more outrage and ranking algorithms to amplify it," unquote. For example, Benny Johnson, a conservative podcaster, uses false outrage to attract views. One of his recent videos featured an AI-generated thumbnail of California Governor Gavin Newsom, angrily holding a burning dollar bill in front of the Hollywood sign, which was also burning. In another, Donald Trump in Eskimo clothing screams, along with Vladimir Putin. This doesn't make any sense. But Benny Johnson has 15 million followers. Unfortunately, false outrage does not stay online. Humans copy the behaviors of people they spend their time around. And because... Do you need something else, Katie?
History book. What's on the table?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like.
And because online outrage consumes so much of our time, that changes actions in the real world. The Foundation for Individual Rights of Expression points this out in a report. Quote, "This year, more than 2/3 of students, 68%, said that shouting down a speaker is at least rarely acceptable," unquote. The report noted that these numbers are at record highs. Students are now more willing than ever to use outrage to end conversations. I've experienced false outrage in public. 3 years ago, my grandparents and I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. After the march ended, I decided to keep my poster as a souvenir. A woman saw my poster and started screaming at me. She believed yelling at 14-year-olds makes you a better person. Now that we've diagnosed our culture with false outrage, let's talk about the symptoms. What are the symptoms? False outrage causes us to avoid calm conversations and to believe that outrage makes us better people. As writers for The Minimalist, a blog that encourages simple living, put it, quote, "We've all gotten offended without asking ourselves why. and then used our false outrage to cast judgment upon others. We do this. And pretending to be offended is much easier than attempting to breach the walls of introspection, unquote. When we pretend to be outraged, we don't have to reason through our beliefs. Piers Morgan, the very British host of a political show with 4 million followers, uses outrage to avoid hard questions. In 2017, when a guest on his show questioned his stance on gun policy, Piers responded, "How dare you?" His face tightening for the camera. When his guest answered, quote, "Well, Piers, you can keep saying that, but my point still stands," unquote, Piers did not press the point. "Again, how dare you?" he repeated. Nothing Piers Morgan said advanced the debate. Instead, he used outrage to shield himself, because outrage is easier than analysis. False outrage is like hiding under the bed in hide and seek. It'll hide you well, but it's a terrible place to be. Performative outrage is a terrible place to be. I've seen this personally. I was sitting in on a committee hearing at the US House of Representatives, just observing as several experts explained developments in nuclear technology. Most of the Congresspeople did what you'd expect, politely ask questions. But one Congresswoman decided to yell at these experts. She was angry about nuclear contamination in her district. Quote, "Let me finish my sentence," unquote, she demanded, saying 10 more sentences as the committee chairman banged on the table with his gavel, telling her she was out of order. Eventually, she stormed out of the room. Her anger caused her to lose an opportunity to learn about nuclear power. But she wasn't angry for no reason. She believed that she was doing a good work by standing against nuclear power. So, here's another symptom. Humans express outrage because it makes us feel like good people. That's crazy. Psychologist Joshua Grubbs found that public figures express outrage at their enemies so that their audience applauds them. When they condemn some far-off event, they receive praise for their bravery and courage. Stephen Colbert, another late-night host, has done exactly that. After Donald Trump held a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Colbert proclaimed on his show, quote, "I'm sure it was just a coincidence, but in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there," unquote. With this remark, Colbert insinuated that Trump is Nazi adjacent. Having created a straw man out of Trump, an evil Nazi, Stephen Colbert spared no words, swearing at Trump live on national television. His statements make sense because his worldview treats outrage as virtuous. Author Glenn Beck describes the human effect of false outrage in his book, Addicted to Outrage. Quote, "It deprives human beings of genuine humanity, replacing it instead with an outwardly facing caricature of a virtuous human being wrapped around a rotting corpse," unquote. This twisted worldview has morality backwards. False outrage replaces good deeds with outraged words. The culture celebrates false outrage. Politicians and media figures promote it. They don't deserve all the blame, but their worldview does deserve the blame. Their worldview is false. Fake outrage is not a virtue, and moral grandstanding is not a good deed. This moral confusion has eroded the genuine compassion of millions and transformed it into outrage. But I wouldn't have accomplished anything if I told you to be outraged at false outrage. That would be a terrible cure to this That would be a terrible cure to this sickness. I used to be addicted to outrage. I was angry at every news story. I debated every little detail. Thankfully, after reading Glenn Beck's book, Addicted to Outrage, I realized what I had been doing. Colossians 3 verse 2 says, quote, "Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things," unquote. I made a pledge to stop being outraged at earthly things. Imagine if everyone stopped practicing false outrage. If everyone stopped being so angry. If we calmly discussed difficult questions and stopped believing that our outrage makes us good people. That's the world I want to live in. and that world is only possible if you help build it. To take a quote from Darth Vader in Star Wars completely out of context, quote, "With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy," unquote. You won't improve the world by being angry. You'll make the world a better place if you have calm discussions, actually do good deeds, and focus on something higher than the next controversy. False outrage isn't worth it. Life is too beautiful to waste being angry.